What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Halftime Snacks podcast. This show features short interviews that you can listen during the halftime of your favorite sports events. Every Tuesday, I host fun conversations with talented people in the sports industry where we'll learn from their stories, knowledge, and experiences. So go grab your favorite snack and come snack with us. Are you ready? Let's go! Joining us now is a very exciting guest. She is a former pro racquetball player who has been the active commissioner for the Ladies Professional Racquetball Tour since 2016. She currently organizes, manages, and promotes women's professional racquetball, which consists of a 10-month touring schedule, different teams, broadcast teams, boards of directors, many things. The Ladies Professional Racquetball Tour, if you never heard about it, is an event-driven governing body of a growing number of the highest-level professional women players in the world. And these elite women athletes represent a dozen countries or more, including the United States, Mexico, Chile, Canada, Colombia, Ireland, Japan. You name it. It's probably gonna be an awesome conversation. So allow me to introduce everyone. TJ Baumbaugh. TJ, welcome to the Halftime Snacks. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ronan. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Yeah, no, the pleasure is mine. The way we started off on the Halftime Snacks is with a fun icebreaker. So the one I have for you is that I want to know, what is your favorite childhood board game?
Ooh, I remember one Christmas that all I wanted for Christmas was Hungry Hippos. I don't know if that counts as a board game, but it's just a fond memory. And that is all I wanted. And that game was so much fun, and I wanted to play that.
Is that one you have to like click your hippo to
The
like
marbles,
eat stuff? Is
yes.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good
That
one.
was
Yeah, it's fun. I like that. That's a good one. I didn't have it on my radar because maybe who knows if that counts as a
I don't know.
as
It's
a board
just
game. But yeah, I'm sure it does. No.
fun. It was a fun memory. And yeah, it was a good game. Gosh,
Nice,
Candyland was the other
nice.
one as a kid. But yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome, TJ. Thank you for sharing that. And well, of course, we're here to talk about your current plans and current developments of the league, of the tournament, the racquetball tournament. But before that, I want to maybe take a step back and get to know you a little bit deeper. Um, you've been in racquetball for most of your life, and I am very curious, like how exactly or at what moment did you decide to follow a career in professional racquetball? Like, take us back to that moment when you were pretty sure that that's something that you wanted to do, for a while.
Well, I mean, I have to be honest. I don't know that I looked at professional racquetball as an option at the time. I got into playing the sport because my dad played,
Mm,
and he introduced me, and I would hit around a little bit with him. But I was in so many other sports at the time when I was a kid, and I really didn't play seriously until I went to college. And I went to college and actually we had a seat on the golf team at the time, and
hmm
decided I didn't want to play golf. And I went and found another passion, and played racquetball, and really started a more serious career when I was in college.
Okay, and what years are we talking about?
Oh, you just go ahead and ask me how old I am. So I graduated college in 98.
Okay,
And
it's
so
like the beginning of the 20s.
yeah, well, yeah, so I played in college, and then continued to play outside of college, but
Mm-hmm.
really discovered that there was a women's tour when
Mm-hmm.
I moved to the DC area, and met
Mm-hmm.
Ed Willis. At the time, was the commissioner of the women's tour,
Yeah.
and I met him, and he kind of encouraged me to play, and then to travel, and that's how I got involved in women's professional racquetball.
And I'm very curious because mostly because I've it's not a sport as well, maybe as the board game that you mentioned. It's not a sport that I have in my radar, and I'm sure that pretty like I'm not the only one. I would say that it's a pretty specific game of very specific niche. I wonder if it was always like that, or if it was some different, let's call it like a tradition for a specific country or something. Was this sport like uh, always under like the very underground, or what, or would you like, how exactly has that changed? Of course, for me, but maybe it's you have a different perspective from being in the inside since the early 2000s.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a very good question because in the grand scheme of things, racquetball's really a young sport. It started in the, I think, the 1960s is when it was first basically created. It started in the United States, and at that time, it was created and it had a big boom, almost like
Hmm.
pickleball's boom right now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
racquetball just went crazy. It was really popular. Um, a lot of people played in the 70s and 80s, and it
Yeah.
grew so fast, almost to a point where it didn't know how to survive with that fast growth. I mean, so really looking back, it's still a very young sport. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason that it isn't as known is because it tends to be in the courts tend to be in health clubs, and unless you belong to a health club or a YMCA or some recreation centers, you might not even know about it. The other place I know it's been kind of popular is military bases, and that's how
Okay.
it went from the U.S. to some of the other countries, Europe and
Interesting.
Asia and things like that. Right.
That's very interesting, and I'm sure that probably now as a commissioner, maybe some parts of your role is to make sure to not only figure out how it's gonna survive the next couple of years, but how it's also gonna grow. Um, and I'm very curious about like that specific role that I was just mentioning. Like maybe walk us through a little bit of how a regular week looks like for you while you're organizing and preparing events. I know that you guys had recently a an event called the Sweet Caroline Open. Is that correct?
That's right.
And then you also have another one coming up, the Super Max Slam. Is that also right?
That's right.
Um, so maybe walk us through of like how a week looks like for you now in terms of like what kind of things are you doing? What are you who are you working with, or what is like the plan so far to like start building up on those events?
So as you mentioned, we just finished the Sweet Caroline Open in Greenville, South Carolina. Um, that was a 6 year for that event, and they do a really good job in Greenville. They have a group of volunteers. They fundraise for some local charities, and they put on this great big event, really to do this fundraising. But they spotlight the Women's Professional Tour, which is really great for us. It's a very special event for us. It usually an event like that also hosts amateurs, so the women's tour goes and plays and performs, and amateurs get to play as well, and they get to watch and that kind of thing. So we had that event 2 weeks ago. Post event, I'm doing things like updating the ranking system for the players, and um, doing follow up articles for our website and any press releases and that kind of thing. Um, I'm also getting ready for our next event, which actually is our Kansas event, our teamroot.com Supermax Slam, is the last event of our current season. So we're preparing for that and getting players to sign up and register for their event, and leading up to that. Um, that one is unique because it's only the pros. There are no
Mm,
amateurs there. It's just solely a pro event. They are the spotlight.
hmm.
And so for that, I'll go in and run it just like a regular tournament.
And maybe just to understand how or what the tour means, does that can we compare it maybe to like Formula One, where there's like races going on in different places of the world, um, basically like as a tour, and then there's a race, and whoever wins that race accumulates points, and so at the end, the one with the most points is like the champion, or is it like a different format? Like, can you maybe explain a little bit more of how that works?
Well, to be honest, I'm not very familiar with Formula One, so I would probably compare it a little bit more to the women's tennis tour. So the players go and they compete in a straight draw, single elimination draw, and for each round that they get to, they get points. If they win a match in their round, they get points. So obviously, the winner, whoever wins the whole tournament, gets the most points, and so on and so forth. So over a year's time, a 12-month cycle or a season, whoever has the most points would end up at the number one ranked player on tour.
Hmm. Okay, that makes sense. And maybe let me now jump a few steps forward and ask you, how do you think racquetball can become this very exciting sport in the next, let's say, 5, 10 years?
I mean, if you're able to watch it, it's so much fun. It's so exciting. It's a great sport to play as well, from amateurs through professionals. One of our challenges is visibility. Is because those courts tend to be in clubs and they're not out at a public park with lots of access. Our responsibility is to broadcast live matches. So that's technology that we have to be creative with sometimes, within our budget. And racquetball is a very fast game, so being able to showcase the matches for a fan that may not know racquetball to watch, that, I mean, that's a challenge. So yes, growing fan base and followers and social media followers, all of that helps. But really being able to broadcast those matches free to anybody who wanted to watch is a pretty key part of our tour, of our sport, really.
And besides maybe visibility, which I think is huge, what do you think technology could maybe provide and help? Of course, technology and its derivatives, right? Like everything that you can do with it. What are some of the other things that you can achieve through technology to really evolve and grow the popularity and the reach of the tour? I remember that here on the Halftime Snacks we hosted Joe Shattuck. Shout out to Joe if you're listening. She was also a professional racquetball player, and then she came up with this technology that uses biomechanics, if I'm not mistaken, to improve the movement and improve the technique. So maybe that is one side as well that you guys would be interested in, like figuring out how to improve performance. What else? What else would you be thinking about in terms of like using or leveraging technology to maybe grow and make the sport a more engaging and more popular sport at a world level?
Well, I know professional ice hockey had some similar challenges where they very hard to watch at home, watch the puck and see it moving. A racquetball is similar in the sense that it's hard to follow. It's very fast. So possibly technology that um, could make it easier for the person at home to view and watch a sport like racquetball that's really fast, uh, would would I mean would make a huge difference in our sport.
That's something that I never came like, thought about like that. It's not only a matter of like visibility, but also would you say it's like the level of how how easy it is to see, right? To see what's going on, because there might be action going on, but if people can't follow it, then there's no engagement, right? Because it's like, I don't know, like watching something that you can't really process in your mind. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if, is that what you mean?
Right, right. Somebody who plays racquetball could watch a match and they know, they kind of have an idea, even when it's really fast, they have an idea what's going on. The fan that's just tuning in to see a sport that they've never seen can't, uh it's so fast, it's hard to see the ball. I mean, the some of the women's pros, as we found out at our Sweet Caroline event, we did a radar speed gun test and found out that some of the top pros hit well over 120 miles an hour. I mean, the ball's going fast. So for somebody who's never played, it's going to be tough to watch.
Yeah, yeah, no, I bet. And also, like, the other thing that I was thinking is like how, like, even as a sport that is, as you said, like very niche and very new, like you have to find ways in engaging people, or having them be interested in what you have to offer, and like you're offering. And and what I'm thinking is like, maybe, even if you're thinking about like broadcasting, maybe you need like specific types of cameras to be able to show some angles and some like slow motion, or things. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
trying to come up with like more interactive tools that will help, the same sport not be, not build like a reputation of not being able to engage its fans. So I do think that there's value in that, and I do think that it's very cool that you have it in mind. Probably it's one of the conversations that you have, once in a while, that when you're trying to just figure out the strategy and the growth. What else do you have in mind for the strategy and the sport? Like, how do you, is it like thinking about like more partnerships or more sponsorships, like in terms of like the commercial side of the league? Like, how do you think about that growth in terms of like as a business, as a whole?
Well, sponsorships, commercials that we are able to run. I mean, that is the basis for how we are able to run an event. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Very similar to a tennis tour. You would go to a tennis event, and there are sponsors that are putting up the prize money and to host an event in a certain area or city. We rely on the same things. We go from city to city, Greenville, South Carolina, to Kansas City, and in each of those places there are sponsors that put up that prize money for players to come and compete. It also, I mean, it costs money to run a tour, to have people fly to those cities, to run a broadcast team, and purchase cameras and all the things necessary to do a broadcast. If we were able to expand a lot more, we'd have somebody else with another camera, doing more interviews, or doing more short stories courtside with the players, and more personal interest things, and showing how players warm up. But it's challenging. I mean, we're not a big sport like
Right.
tennis or golf or Formula One. Um, Not yet. We have a long ways to go. So um, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we could do, and need to keep doing to grow.
And what are some like the things that you're currently doing? I remember you mentioning that the people that play, the women that play, sometimes they have very interesting stories. You also mentioned something, a fact that I didn't even know, that the most, I think the best racquetball, or the highest ranked racquetball player in ladies tour is actually Mexican, and I'm from Mexico, and I wasn't aware, so I take all the blame for that. But how exactly, like, are you trying currently to share more of those stories, or to make more people more, bring awareness to like the sport ecosystem, and to the people out there that don't really know about these people and their stories? Like, what are you trying currently to do to expand that awareness?
Well, we rely so much on social media for one. I mean, the usual Facebook and Instagram and our website and that kind of thing. But um, telling the players stories better, letting the fans get to know the players, so that they're following along and how the players do for sure. Um, that's one area, and just promoting the tour and just being a regular presence on social media. But the other side is because we are, um, when we go to an event like Greenville, South Carolina, for example, the fans are really courtside. So the players get to know the players. They come out of the court. It's not like any other sport in that way, that the players come out of the court and the fans are sitting right there. So they get to interact, they get to chat with them. They win a match and they could get an autograph if they wanted to, or a photo with one of the pros. So it's a very different experience. Racquetball is, especially professional racquetball. But one of the other, and in addition to that, one of the things that the LPRT, the Ladies Professional Tour, is doing is really trying to do some community outreach. We're trying to grow the sport by running a collegiate clinic in Arizona, and to run a juniors clinic to the kids at the club in Kansas City, and just try to reach more people that
Mm.
way, just because we're accessible.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think that the one of the main takeaways there is how you mentioned, like, it's a whole different experience. Like, it's not what soccer fans or basketball fans or like football fans are used to, right? It's more, feels like more intimate, feels like more family oriented, that it's very close to between athletes and fans. And that's awesome. I hope and I wonder if like that's gonna still happen when it grows and when more people and more demand starts to flowing around the sport, and bigger venues are going to be required for the same events. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, so we'll see how that's going to play out. In terms of like diversity, inclusion, and equity, how are you thinking about this couple of topics that have become quite relevant in the last few years? What are some of the best practices that you maybe can share of things that you've developed over the years, as a commissioner on the league, that are working, that maybe leagues, teams, players, or organizations out there could learn from those practices? Are there a couple of things that you can share, maybe as projects as well, that you have tried and developed over the years to boost and promote those values?
Well, as far as, I mean, at this level, for a professional tour like this, what I've learned is that the tour really has to be accessible, which means we have to be able to have events in cities around the US, in Mexico, in South America. Right now, those are where most of our players come. We have to go to those places. We have to go to where the players are. That's the only way that um, local junior players, or the 13-year-old girl who's just starting to play racquetball, can see an opportunity for her in the future, is if we actually go to those locations. Um, our tour at this point is mostly in North and South America. Again, we're still a small enough sport, and we haven't had an event in Europe or Asia yet. It would be a grand plan for us. But again, it's sponsorship in dollars, but as best we can, taking the tour to cities all across the US, Mexico, and South America.
Yeah, I think that as you're mentioning it's taking step by step, right? It's taking small steps, but steps forward to try to expand and reach different cities and audiences, and include as many cultures as you can, as many nationalities, and I think that's awesome, and I think that is the right path to becoming a league, in growing a league that already has some values established, right? I think it's very different when you already when you're already big and you're trying to, come up with different values that you want to adopt, other than like being small and still develop those values for your league and your teams and your players during your growth, right? I do always come back to the example of being a startup. When a startup is small, you can in a way you can control the culture, you can talk about the values, and it's easier because it's less people. When you have like a team of 500 or 1,000 people, it's harder because there's more conversations going on around that you're not the one having them. So it's hard to communicate your values at that time. So when you're small, it's better to start building up a culture that promotes those kind of things. And I do think that that's part of what you guys are doing at the tour. TJ, this has been cool. This has been awesome. I think we've learned. At least I've learned a lot about the Racquetball Tour for ladies, and I can't leave without asking you a more personal question. We always wrap it up with a personal question. The one I have for you is: say I would give you $1 million that you had to donate to charity. What charity would you give it to, or to where would you donate that to?
Oh, I have a big heart for animals, so Lost Dog Animal Rescue is a local one that I'm a fan of. Just finding homes for all adoptable pets, for sure.
Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy learning about the business and technology behind sports, make sure you subscribe to the Sports Tech Biz newsletter. I'll leave the link in the show notes. See you all next week. Bye-bye.